with interviews can come a lot of anxiety and stress, but we're here to help you overcome that. I'm Jen, a career coach and your go-to gal for all things career advice.
And I'm Gina, and hopefully we're going to help some people get their next job.
Welcome to Job Search Stories.
Today, we're sharing the best interview techniques for getting the job that you want.
Gina, let's look at this Reddit user's post and see if we can answer their question about it, because we know, yes, interviewing can be anxiety-inducing. So this Reddit user says, "Hello, everyone. I'm trying to learn new different ways on how to cope with intense interview anxiety. I don't just mean feeling a little nervous beforehand. I mean serious, debilitating anxiety, shaking, feeling nauseous, diarrhea day of." TMI, I know, sorry. Thinking of nothing but the interview up until the day and even afterwards. It seems like I'll never mentally be prepared to have an awesome interview where I can feel fully calm and confident and capable. Any tips, tricks, or recommendations would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, TMI, I get it. Interviews are literally so nerve-wracking. This person holds your whole future in their hands. My tips are pump myself up, with music. Obviously, being prepared is something that's really important, but also realizing that that person's a person too. They're not like superhuman. They're just another person that you're chatting with.
They're just another person.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when we think about common causes of interview anxiety, a lot of it comes from this feeling like we won't be prepared enough, that we're going to say something embarrassing, that we're going to make ourselves look ridiculous, and you just really need to land a job. That pressure can really make us feel interview anxiety.
How can you overcome interview anxiety?
I think interview anxiety can be overcome with a lot of preparation. And that preparation can really start before the interview actually takes place. You'll hear me talk about this a lot. I really am a proponent of practicing common interview questions. Honestly, if you can just get down a solid answer to tell me about yourself, you're gonna be in a really good spot. Also, read that job description. Really get comfortable with knowing what they're looking for, because that's gonna help you and make you feel really confident when you're giving answers. And then if you're in the interview, don't be afraid to acknowledge your nervousness. I know sometimes people don't want to say it out loud because it feels like they're drawing attention to it, but it's very humanizing to just say, "Hey, I'm feeling a little nervous right now, but it's just because I'm really excited about this opportunity." It's showing vulnerability, and you can be vulnerable and confident at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. That's a nice little tidbit. How can you, in an appropriate way, say, "I don't know" in an interview? Because we get this comment a lot on our YouTube channel. What are your thoughts?
I would never advise for someone to just say, "I don't know," if they're asked a question and they don't have an answer for it.
Yeah.
What I would recommend instead is just say, "Let me think about it." And then just kind of talk through your thought process out loud. Because a lot of times, an employer is really just looking to understand how you problem solve. So sometimes it's not about getting a right answer or sharing the perfect experience. It's about recalling what you could possibly do, giving them a sense for how you solve problems and approach certain situations. And that's the really valuable information.
Literally just taking your time to answer the question.
It's okay. Ask for a minute to think about it. It's better to take your time than rush into an answer and then end up in a situation where you've been talking for 4 minutes and you don't even know where you're going with the story.
What advice do you have for people who are just looking for a little boost of confidence in an interview?
Some really simple techniques that you can use to boost your confidence before an interview can honestly just be some positive self-talk. And it can come from yourself. But if you have friends or family who know that you're interviewing, let them know the day before so that they can send you a nice message to really boost your confidence going into it. And like I said, getting a really strong answer to tell me about yourself is such a good strategy because it's one of the most common interview questions you're going to be asked. It's most commonly the first interview question you're going to be asked.
Yeah.
So if you start off this interview nailing that and really speaking confidently about yourself and identifying why you're a good fit for this role and why it makes sense for your career journey, that just sets you on a really positive trajectory moving forward.
I love that. Also, my advice, getting your pump up music on and just having a good time right before, eating your favorite little sneaky snack. Sometimes I prepare, so watching our YouTube videos, learning how to answer common interview questions.
I find that there's a few different ways in which people actually prep for interviews. I am a studier and an over-preparer. So I'm studying for days before, an hour a day, taking notes, putting it all together. Some people don't like that at all.
That's a bit much.
This is what being riddled with anxiety is like for me.
Agreed.
This is how my anxiety manifests.
I love that for you.
But some people just want the quiet, right? They want to meditate before the interview and they just really want to come into it in a calm space. And so it's about finding what's right for you and just making sure you allow yourself that time so that you can get into it in kind of the right headspace.
Period.
On the topic of interview anxiety, let's take a question from a viewer.
I'll read this one. Alex asks, I had a great interview and it's been a week since. Now I'm having anxiety about what I also forgot to mention and if my answers were too short. Jen and Gina, in an interview, how can I know when and when not to expand on an answer to an interview question? That's a good one.
It's a good one. Do you have any tips before I jump in?
Don't be too insecure and don't rack your brain wondering after an interview's ended. Because if you were prepared and if you feel like you were qualified for the role.
You got to calm those intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
Also important to know just the length interview questions could be. So like we said, depending on the type of question, an answer can range between 30 seconds to 2 to 3 minutes. So you really got to think about what is the appropriate amount of information that I could give that answers this one question that they're asking me? Because that's really going to be your gauge. I know I talked about the Indeed Career Guide in the past. They have some really great articles on this topic. There's actually one in particular that will break down what the recommended interview answer length should be depending on the question. And it actually gives you examples as well. We can go ahead and link that in the comments, but it's a really great resource. And speaking of the comments section, if you have any questions or want specific career advice, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment so that we can answer your question on a future episode of Job Search Stories.
Here's another thing that I have seen on social media, and it is how to tell a new job about a pre-planned vacation. When in the interview process should a candidate bring up their pre-planned vacation?
So there are a couple of natural places in the interview process where someone can bring up their pre-planned vacation. If you're interviewing for a job and they mention specific start dates, or specific dates that they would want you to be available and you know that you're not available during those times, that's a natural place to mention it. And also, when you even get to the later stages, maybe it's the offer stage and you're discussing start time, that's a good point for you to say, oh, just want to bring this up now, but I actually have a pre-planned vacation coming up. Really, it's within the first 90 days. Because some companies have this probationary period where they're evaluating you for that first 90 days. And so if that vacation time kind of lands within there, that might impact it. So it could be something like they would want to push out your start date, or that could just be a sign that maybe it's not a good fit after all.
Do employers get upset if you have to reschedule an interview or your first day of work?
Recruiters and employers don't necessarily get upset if you have to reschedule an interview because you have a pre-planned vacation. However, you just have to recognize that your schedule may not align with theirs, and that's just a part of the process. I mean, you have your own commitments, and that's okay. Sometimes rescheduling can be hard, especially if you're interviewing with multiple people or you're interviewing on a panel or with a panel, because schedules are tight. It's hard to find open spots where everybody's available. But that information is really important for them to have because, like I said, it can be a requirement of the job. So if they can do it, they can, especially if you're an applicant that they're really excited about.
It could be a reason why you don't get the job.
Sorry, you need to take a break, right? Ugh.
Sorry,
Sorry, you need to reset.
Sorry, capitalism is making you go crazy. As someone who has hired people, how do you feel? I feel like Christian slipped this one in for herself.
Let's talk about Christian.
I feel like you slipped this one in so you could know what Jen thinks about you having your honeymoon.
If you really want to know, it's super inconvenient.
She slipped this one in for herself. Okay.
She's like, let's just say you had a new employee named Christian, and they had a honeymoon come up within the first 2 weeks of their start date.
I can have to cut you and I'm like dying because that's definitely what you did. Okay. As someone who has interviewed people as a hiring manager, how do you feel about a candidate bringing up their pre-planned vacation?
I love it. I actually find it to be a sign of respect just for the hiring and interview process because they're letting you know, hey, I'm really interested in this job, but I had a life before I started this interview process and I've made plans. And that's okay. We're all people. We all have things going on. And so having somebody clearly express that they have a pre-planned vacation in the interview process, that allows me as a hiring manager to better build a schedule that meets both my needs and theirs.
There's your answer, Christiane.
We still love you, Christiane.
Anyways, that is all the time we have. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Job Search Stories. If you have any more questions for us, make sure to leave a comment down below and make sure to watch more episodes of Job Search Story on our YouTube channel, or you can listen to the audio on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And that's it. Bye.
Bye.
A candidate bringing up their Okay. I don't even remember what I said. I black out. I need you to know that.
You listen to your pump up jams.
Yeah.
Pump up
it up. Oh, yeah. Sorry, blacked out.